company for many years, and we're glad to see that they're involved. So that's very important. That helps also when we look at internal controls and other things. It's very helpful. Along with that, just a couple of brief comments because it's obviously it's rather historic information ending June 30th of 2023. But the good news is it has an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of opinion that the independent auditor can issue. The importance of that opinion has to do with, especially with the state of Michigan, they want to see that's very important. But also when you go out for bonding. So again, it wasn't that long ago that you had done that. You're currently paying on the bonds, but it gives you a good rating, and that's important when they look at these financial statements. So again, the unmodified opinion is very important. So I wanted to mention that. And then just briefly from a financial end, I'm just going to mention a couple things. Obviously, very good management by the board. You do a great job staying within budget. You're able to, keep your costs down, stay within budget. Last year, in the year ending of June, there were some repairs that came up that you took care of during that time. And even when you did that, you were able to keep your fund balance or your equity stable, which was good. So when you look at that, during the year, there was actually just a small decrease in cash, but that occurred because you did have repairs of over some $70,000, which come up occasionally. So again, also at the same time, you're paying off almost, $250,000 worth of principal on bonds, interest, that's very important. So the management, again, I look at this, when I'm auditing is if I was on the board, what I would want to, be informed on and to understand what's going on. And from another standpoint, from your fund balance, it's a healthy fund balance. There's not too much there. It's a good amount because you do have bonds right now that's over 2.6 million that still are outstanding. So every year you're paying off the principal of $250,000 along with interest. So again, that's important to maintain that fund balance that you have. And again, that's staying within costs and within budget. The last time I just wanted to mention too, if I was on the board, it'd be important is your cash and how it's invested. And you've done a very good job on that. Most of it is actually 100% FDIC insured. The balance is still with strong institutions. You couldn't ask for more from what you've done. I always use an old statement of kind of got to invest it like grandma's money because it's got to be there. And you represent, all the members of the authority. And it's very important to protect that, which you have done. So, in summary, again, everything is in good shape. You've managed it well and the fund balance is healthy, but it's not too much money at all that you maintain. It's there for again, you have, like I said, over $2.6 million worth of debt still out there. So, and then unforeseen repairs that could come up periodically. So with that said, I'll just leave it open for the board. And then if you could approve the audit report so I can submit it to the state of Michigan.
Okay, any questions, anybody? I just always like to look at the graphs. So if you look at the numbers in the graph at the end, did you print those out? Maybe I don't have it. There, last page. So we're basically saying the net for the last year, 23 was we were still at 50 grand.
Right.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that graphs show is that the system is getting older. It's being depreciated. So again, you have to, keep that in mind going forward of what those unforeseen costs could be in time. So again, the financials are done on what you call accounting-wise accrual basis, which means you do depreciation and you treat it like a small business from that standpoint. And the system is depreciating. So again, the only thing you have to keep in mind in the future, what maybe future repairs you might have, working with your engineers just looking at that down the road. That would be about it.
All right,
And I do want to let your auditor know, because we haven't had a chance to talk to him. We are actually looking at taking the small amount of cash they do have and putting it into like Michigan class.
Yeah,
So that they can at least accentuate, so safety and security is important, but if we can capitalize, so. Yeah, so that's still a safe and secure place to put your money.
okay. Any questions? Any other questions? Anybody?
I have one statement. Basically, our conversion from our employed contract person that we had to Woodhill was not completely seamless. And what is your analysis of what we could have done better? And what do we need to do in the immediate future to make sure that we're in good shape and safe?
yeah. What we're seeing is that you've accomplished that. You're in good shape now. You don't have to really worry about it. Looking back at what could have or is probably kind of like more of a guesstimate thing, John, as far as what you could have done differently. I think that maybe there were some things that were behind that need to be caught up and those kinds of things that they took care of. And there's probably many more things that, we were not totally aware of. But the good news is that when we come in and do the audit, it's important about the confidence that we have, in the accounting and in the systems that you have in place. And the good news is, we feel very strong about how you are now. So I kind of would rather kind of look at that and rather than probably be able to comment really clearly on what happened before, because you're in a good place.
I could offer some suggestions. So part of the difficulty was that all of the registrations, enrollment, everything was in a individual's name. It wasn't in the authority's name. And so there was a lot of difficulty with that. Passwords, emails, all of a sudden no longer working. And so from an internal control perspective, which the auditors did call up, that there were some internal control issues with separation of duties. So we have 3 people assigned to this account so that we definitely have those controls. We are also working with Jessica at SIO to make sure that Woodhill itself doesn't want to own your email. We don't want to be responsible. There are some things right now that are on our credit card because we just needed to get this thing moving. But you will be able to transition away from Woodhill. Let's say I walk in tomorrow with purple hair and you say, well, I don't want somebody with purple hair handling my accounts. You're going to be able to say, okay, you with the purple hair, you are out of here and we're hiring somebody with auburn hair. And it will be seamless because you will be in control of everything. And so that is a safer perspective for the board, right? We want you to be able to be in control of everything. You need to be able to walk us out the door and walk somebody else in, and it needs to move seamlessly. Fortunately, Woodhill, the gentleman assigned to you, is an IT guy. And so all of these IT, he's got a deep IT knowledge. And you have had a lot of IT issues that we had to resolve in order to get ourselves moving. That I would have been able to come back to you and say, hey, get an IT guy to solve this. Like, I don't know what to do with all of this. I can't set up your website. I can't, I don't know how to migrate all this. So we were able to do a huge service for you there, and we are taking steps to make sure that this does not happen again, right? So I think that was, from the accounting perspective, the books were in, there were just a few things we had to catch up on, but I think it was the control of who owned all the data and where it was all, who was controlling the communication was not in the board's name. And not that it was purposely not in the board's name, it just wasn't in the board's name, right? Well, we're a company, and so we take ownership of data very, very seriously. We don't own any data we work with. We are employed by the entity to manage their data. So we have a lot of protocols in place to make sure that all the data and everything is in the entity's name. So it was really just, I think it's just a matter of protocols, right? So we are not complete with transitioning everything, but we even just had a team meeting about it the other day about, okay, we have to make sure we're on track to move this forward so that everything is registered in the authority's name.
Just a comment, Connie, but we've got we've got to do something more than that. We got to document our procedures. This board knows nothing about the financial situation. And it's been going, it's 30 years old. It's back before the turn of the century. So,
You mean like,
we need some more, what is the best organization or process here to get us up to speed on all these issues? You've really brought them up, I think, as you transition. But I'm saying, how do we keep it going? How do we keep communicating here better? I think we're very pleased with the communication that's occurred, and your ideas are spot on. How do we keep from getting in the situation we were in before?
So, we're still settling in, right? We were drinking from the fire hose when all of a sudden nothing was working, right? So we're still settling in. We have some things here. I think that's, if you're interested in knowing, operationally, what are the transactions that occur? How is for instance, there's a pile of checks here, like how is this data moving? We're gonna end up with some suggestions on that. It's going to be not a problem for us. You need to let us finish the transition, but we can certainly give you a write-up of here's how your payables work, here's how your cash receipts work. At this point in time, if people haven't paid their bill, it migrates over to the treasurer for delinquencies. If that is what you're talking about operationally.
Yeah, documentation.
Yeah, and who does what, and for instance, this requires a password, it's in possession of, the clerk of the board. This requires, we will do that internally as we finish transitioning this anyway. And so we'll be able to hand that to you.
All right, well, as long as we're working towards better documentation of the process.
We are, because we have to be able to transition, right? Like we always operate on, okay, well, if something happens to Michael, I need to know where everything is so that I can, have Ryan handle it. So we have to operate that way anyway. So we're happy by the time we're done to hand that off to you.
All right, great.
And we'll forward it. We try and keep the auditor in the
Yeah.
loop on things, so we'll be forwarding any changes to him.
Good.
that are significant.
Okay, any other questions?
I have a couple. I'm new to this, so I did read through everything, but I have a couple questions. I may have written down the wrong amount, but 475,000 and that's uninsured.
Yeah, that's what that means is it's still with a strong institution. So when you invest the money, there's FDIC insurance, there's different insurances. But what happens is that you still have strong institutions that the money is with. Like for instance, there's many school districts in Michigan that have all their money with one institution that's very strong, okay? And it's maybe 20, 30, 50 million. And you're still in good shape with that. But there is a component, you can make 100% insured they have a program, but again, the Michigan class does a great job, as Colleen mentioned. There's another one if you want to go at the other extreme where you can go in like a Cedars program where they have 250 in each bank sort of through one maybe institution. And then it's 100% insured. But you guys are really still in very good shape.
Thought you said it was 100% insured in your comments.
I said that the FDIC is 100%, but the rest of the money is still with strong institutions.
So FDIC is still limited for the organizations too.
It is, you know, it's, if you go through financial statements, you'll see, the rating of the banks is as critical as FDIC insurance. FDIC insurance is just a piece of this puzzle.
Okay.
If you're gonna be chasing after insurances, I mean, you'll be chasing.
And the other question was, there was a note in there, may have the amount wrong again, something about around $4,000 that was unexplained.
Oh, that was, so when we were reconciling the bank account, there were some deposits that were recorded. So the money was receipted into the bank, but it wasn't recorded in your BSNA against your customer account. So we didn't know which customer that related to. And 4,000 was, from the auditor perspective, it was, because you're a small entity, right? So 4,000 hit their materiality threshold that they needed to report it to you. We declined to write that off. Like if we had said, we don't know what this is, we're gonna write it off to miscellaneous revenue, then it would have been an audit comment. But we said we don't want to do that because we're gonna have somebody come back and tell us, hey, I paid the bill. And in point of fact, we just did, right? So we've already reduced that unknown deposit to about 3,000. So that's what that's about. It was just a deposit. So I think what happened is she just got the money in the bank and then just didn't have time to record it against the customer accounts, and then we didn't know what it was, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Can I have a motion to approve the financial audit as presented?
And send it on to the state?
And
Yes. Some of.
motion moved by Kingsley, second.
1 second.
Harry, second. That's financial. I guess we gotta vote on that one. So we'll vote Kalaja,
Aye.
Flintoff,
Aye.
Kingsley,
Aye.
Carey,
Aye.
Navar, aye, Westman,
Aye.
unanimously passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Yep,
Thank
thank
you, John.
you. Yep, have a good evening.
Thank you.
I hope so.
You're right.
We hope it's a good evening.
Pressure's still on. All right,
Dave,
Alright.
just so you know, we have Ted and Brandon here as well as about 8 members of the public.
okay, so, would you like to, have your 5 minutes of,
Sure. Thanks, Dave.
recognition now?
And thanks to the entire board. So, as I said, my name is Brian Darty. I'm the board president of the Loch Alpine Improvement Association, also known as LAIA, which governs Loch Alpine, as you know. LAIA represents about 450 Loch Alpine families and also the bulk of your customers. On behalf of the Loch Alpine community, I've got a few points I'd like to make for your consideration. First, our two organizations have always cooperated very well. We appreciate that, and in the best interests of the community. So we thank you for your service to the community. I know we've gone through a couple tough things here in the last little bit, so thank you for working through those. These recent issues, such as elevated lead levels in the two homes and the water main break, highlight the importance of clear and fast communication to the community. State minimum communication standards are just that, minimums. We have advised LASA for many years. I've been on the board 8 years, and this has been an ongoing conversation since I joined the board, trying to improve LASA's communication with their customer base. And I know you guys have been working towards that over the years, but we really think it's time, especially given some of the things that have happened, that we really need to improve that. We've helped LASA by using our email database to communicate with your customers, but that can miss customers for things I'll mention in a second. And we can do this in the short term, but LASA really needs to quickly develop their own effective communication systems. And long term, we don't want to be your ad hoc system. So we're happy to help. We want to do what's best for the community, but you guys really need to step up and improve the system. The other issue using us is there's an extra delay in the system because you guys decide you want to have a notice put out. It needs to get sent to LAIA and then we send it out. So there's just unnecessary delay there versus you sending it out directly. In the interim, while you're working on this, we're happy to help as we have in the past. On another subject, we'd also like to request a better understanding of some potential loss of bylaw and organizational changes that we heard may remove LAIA's ability to name a community representative to your board. We believe that it's critical to have residents of Loch Alpine on the LAHSA committees as they have the most vested interest in keeping LAHSA in good shape. In addition, given the close cooperation between LAIA and LAHSA over many years, I think it makes sense to continue having an LAI board appointed representative on LAHSA's board to ensure good communication. We've had good communication as Dave's been our representative for a number of years. We've had good representation before that. Since we do work closely together and have such a significant overlap in our community, our customer base, so to speak, we think that makes sense to continue. We also have many engineers and people with utility experience living in Loch Alpine. Some of them are up here and on the operating committee. So we encourage LAHSA to continue to bring in additional community members, volunteers with the expertise to assist. The other adjacent communities to Loch Alpine, Glen Devon and North Delhi Hills, who represent, I think, most of the rest of your customers that aren't in Loch Alpine, also are eager to assist. So in summary, we'd like LAHSA to develop their own effective customer communication system as soon as possible. We'll continue to assist as much as possible as we have historically. We would also like to continue having the Loch Alpine Improvement Association board appoint a representative to be on the LAHSA board. And we urge the LAHSA board to continue having many of their qualified Loch Alpine, Glen Devon, and North Delhi Hills customers on both the board and the operating committee. So thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Well stated. Do you want a copy of that?
Yeah, do you want to submit a copy?
Yeah, that's fine.
And I'll just have it with the minutes always.
Just have my notes on the back.
Or electronic copy maybe? Or what works for you, Barb?
I can make a copy.
Okay.
Well, I'll just take a picture of my notes. The notes aren't anything important on the back, so I'll give it to you. Don't run too late so you miss the football game.
We gotta stay to the end. Doors closed.
Well, I guess if I don't know if you guys typically have interaction in these meetings, but are you working on? I think resources need to be dedicated. I mean, we talked about it for so long and I know it's frustrating for you guys too, but.
We aren't there yet. As we get into these discussions of the lead, copper and fire and water main break that occurred, that was some of my comments that we're going to discuss tonight is we need to, someone has to send this note out. And I don't think it should be me because I'm holding it up in some cases I'm not around. So I think it's gotta be between our contractors at this point in time. I know Brandon, we'll get into that. Brandon's up next here and we'll go through that a little bit. The procedure we use or how we do this. Right now, we only have a list of about 150. We've requested those that want emails to give us their information. And I think Michael has said we got about 150 responses to date out of the 500. So we're well short of where you're at. And it's so how effective is it? Not very. And how do we encourage people to give us that information? All we can do is
Well, just so you.
put it on the bills.
Just so you know, we have, an incomplete email list as well, because we have people that opt out because they don't want to get emails from us, and that's fine. For you guys with state, notification requirements, it seems like you would need a more complete list even than what we have. So.
Somebody's on your list.
I don't know, but
Yeah,
it's more than 150. I know that.
it's usually 10% are in moving, it's about 5 or 10%. In general, I would say.
Well, and things get old and people, old email addresses. I mean, it is a lot of work, and we have dedicated a lot of volunteer hours on people on our team to try to keep those lists up. So once you take this on, it's a pain, but obviously it's, I think, necessary.
Never ending.
On the website, is there a form to sign up? for communication?
Yeah, there was a notification if you wanna be notified. Would send your email, an email with phone number, name, phone number, address to Michael at Lassa Billing, and we'll put them on the list. But we haven't used that list. That's the other thing I wanna get into contracts.
Yeah, this is all new, Jillian too,
Okay.
since Woodville took over this summer. Quickly putting up that website, that sign up, so.
Okay,
Well, it's on the lochalpine.org site too.
Correct, yeah.
So also the Lassa billing, which is, or Lassa water, which is the one created by Michael. So we haven't formally transitioned over. They're only aware of the lochalpine.org site for the most part. That's the one we've been referring to. We haven't changed over till we get it organized. There's about a tenth of the information on there that's on the other. We have 10 times the information on the lochalpine.org site than we have on the new site we've started.
So you're gonna create a separate site.
Yeah, we're
Cause then what we can do is just have a link on our site that
Correct.
directs folks right over to your site. So I think that would be best.
Yeah.
Then regarding the bylaw changes, since we're discussing all this, what's the status of
Well,
that?
only two people are aware of what's going on there. That's John and Jessica. Nothing's been discussed yet or finalized.
We very strongly believe that the LAIA board should still be able to appoint a representative. And we'd like to keep this rather than have a bunch of outsiders that aren't customers. To me, it makes sense to have people kind of watching their own.
The proposal
Yeah.
that we've been discussing did not have any outsiders, so were not stakeholders.
Okay.
But the language did include a major change, and that is the Lassa board would appoint, which may be something you wouldn't agree to. And secondly, it would include the other stakeholders, North Alpine or Glen Devon and so on, as opposed to strictly Loch Alpine.
Well, if you only have one representative, it's hard to cover all three, but
Well,
all three communities get along very closely and we talk among the other.
this has gone on for, 40, 50 years and it's always worked. It's not that we necessarily want to, reinvent a wheel. But also, we want to be inclusive of the other outside, people that are
In favor of
being
that as well.
served.
So maybe adding more people rather than taking away the LAIA's representative.
Ryan, if I could just clarify, and again, we've had one small conversation, it's been the
Okay.
holidays. We talked with our attorney, we need to talk again, I would hope it might be ready for the next Lassa board to discuss in full, but we'll see.
Okay.
But I just want to clarify, Brian, never was there any conversation about removing a customer seat. Simply a discussion ensued about how we can be a responsible public authority,
Sure.
but allow one private association to appoint to a public authority. That's something that's not done.
Okay.
And so it's, as Supervisor Kingsley said, it's about one, being inclusive of all of our customers, but not beyond our customer base. And two, it's about the process by which that nominee gets appointed. And so the discussion was that it would be the Lassa board appointing. That doesn't mean that the Improvement Association or the other associations wouldn't put forward a candidate or wouldn't do their own kind of recommendations to it. But it's hard to imagine for me how we could be a responsible public authority and allow one private association to have the right to appoint to a public authority.
Okay.
Does that
But
make
we
sense?
represent 90% of your customers, so.
But it's the private entity appointing to a public authority,
Okay.
which is hard to reconcile when we look at the law today.
Maybe each of the neighborhoods that represent 99% of your customers could each appoint one. I mean, that's what I would do to be more inclusive. I would expand it. My concern, and I think the LAI board's concern is having Dave as our representative was great because he would attend our meetings and we would get updates monthly on the goings on at LASA and help answer questions that our members had, which in a lot of ways took some of the burden off of you folks because they weren't coming to you, they were coming to us. And then we'd get those questions answered quickly. So our worry is a breakdown in communications, not necessarily the logistics of the appointment itself. It's having that monthly communication that Dave has been very good about having as our representative until he was the chair here. And he's still actually been kind of our representative, I guess, and coming to our meetings. But I guess we really don't want that to end because we see that as a very productive communication method between our organizations.
I share that.
Yeah. And we're happy, Glen Devon, North LI Hills, the more the merrier, we're just the biggest chunk, so.
Any other discussion?
Thank you. You guys have any questions for me?
Dave, did you want to take any other public comment?
Any other, I guess at this time, any other public comments for those on Zoom? Raise your hand.
Please raise your Zoom hand. And thank you, everybody, for jumping to a new Zoom link. Please raise your Zoom hand if you'd like to speak.
Because you don't know how many people you lost on the old link, so
It is imperfect, Brian.
yes, I know, trust me, I know.
I see no Zoom hands. Go ahead, Dave.
All right, well, that's, thanks, Brian, for your
Thank you,
comments.
everyone.
Thank you.
And if we can move on, Brandon, with the F&V, the operations report. I guess start with the, I don't know, January 3rd, we had a fire breakout, a Tesla fire out of the garage. I don't know why we needed the water. But at any rate, we had a water main break as followed. So we've had boil water. We've had a response time that was not happy to many of the customers, which was about 6 hours. Not bad, I thought, for the email notification was not used that LASA has. The system was put out was through LAIA, the notice, and then Brandon sent out or delivered to the doors, the notice the next morning. And then on top of that, an insurance claims neighbor down the street called, has severe erosion issues, and the insurance company has been called, and they're in discussions with the homeowners insurance company at this point. So it's been a busy week for Brandon. Anything else you want to report on fire, Brandon?
A little bit. The state dictates that we'd notify customers within 24 hours of the water being shut off, which we were well within. I actually started getting phone calls from your old house, Dave. He called me within about 30 seconds of us actually shutting the water off. So the customers there are very well connected with each other. That is one thing that is a plus. But we did get it out within 24 hours. The other thing that we did end up having to do is come back to that. We were able to fix it, do a temporary repair that night. But the valve that was in front of the fire hydrant, we had one in the garage and we were able to replace it. The nut had rotted off the top of it, as well as when we were down there and they went to shut the valve off to the fire hydrant itself. They turned it about 6 turns and it closed. It was closed it with about 6 turns, and a 6-inch valve should be, I want to say, about between 12 and 18 turns. So there's some concern there of why that hydrant valve was ever closed. We've never once touched a hydrant valve, other than one that I know of, because the hydrant is broken, and we're going to be fixing that. So I don't understand. Ted and I had a conversation today about what could happen if the fire department was drawing off that hydrant with the valve closed. That may have caused the break, but that's beside the point. We have no idea what could have potentially caused it.
Well, you're putting that valve on a database of some kind that says to check out in the future, right? Or to investigate further, or no?
The hydrant valves should be open 100% unless they're marked as the hydrant's being marked out of service. So, I mean, we replaced the valve completely because the nut was rotted off of it and
Oh, okay.
it was kind of hard to turn.
All right.
So there was issues with that valve when we dug it up. So they sleeved a piece of pipe in there and put a new valve on.
So, I'm sorry,
Yeah, so
just a question, Brandon, what is the kind of, hydrant maintenance schedule? For LASA, do we have one? Do we need to implement one? I know our water, department here at Scioto Township has been catching up, on kind of regular maintenance of the hydrants. Has that been part of your scope of work at F&B?
Yeah, mainly flushing hydrants. But typically we don't touch the valve that's on the front of the hydrant. Never closed. It's always left completely open because it's not a system valve.
Gotcha.
So it's not something that's normally ever touched. Compared to the hydrant and talking with Ted, that is an older section of main. That hydrant is fairly new. It's a newer East Jordan hydrant. So I don't know if that was ever replaced and then maybe the valve didn't get turned all the way on, but it's on now. It's 100% on now. So,
okay, how would we, to answer Brian's question before, whose job is it best, or who would it be best to, you have a list to send out this notification via our email system, Brandon, is that something you can do? Or F&V can do, or is that, what are your thoughts? I know you're busy scrambling around, getting everything cleared and digging and patching and everything else, getting everyone on site.
so I ideally with a water main break, it's to minimize as many customers as we can to be affected. And I prefer it when there's maybe 10 houses affected. Because then you can just hand deliver the notices to the customers that are affected. That's typically how we do it.
But with an old system, when the valves don't work and you gotta keep going back up line further to shut the valve down because the old ones are, it's more gonna be the standard than the exception.
Yes. So, I mean, I think it's best if LASA has the email list, to be able to send it to the customers, but it's also having the ability to just notify the affected customers.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Because not everybody was affected, and there was some misunderstanding of who was affected, I think.
And that will always be the case.
Yeah, because social media.
Yes.
So how many were affected? How many households?
Well, how many households are affected? About 50 or 80 or?
It was less than 100, I believe. So it was. I think you're pretty close, around 50. And I think Andy's on here. He printed them.
It's on the lochalpine.org site. You can see the.
Well, so if the system with the water main break, that it doesn't affect all customers, only a certain.
Correct.
Really?
Because you've
You shut them down.
isolated, you keep the pressure, you close valves to isolate the good part while you repair the bad part. So as long as you keep pressure on them,
Is there a map of
yes,
for different sections?
yes.
Well, that may be easier to create a mailing list for each section and then have just a general form, I guess, that would say, water main break, boil water, and just send it out to that section.
Well, we have a database in BSA and we've got about 150 emails, addresses.
There's my-
Yeah.
It's about gathering more.
89? It's about 89 houses.
Sounds like Michael might have some insight to offer.
Oh, there it
Yeah,
is.
also you got the hill problem. That was unfortunate that happened at the top of the hill, so you got issues
Yeah,
with the
so-
pressure differential affecting everything.
That's very true.
So, you would for LASA send that out, is what you're saying, Brandon, right?
I think it would be easier for you guys to manage it than it would be for myself or F and V to try to manage that. And we could just coordinate with LASA.
But we need who is that in LASA though then? We don't have an administrative person or, I guess that's me again, huh?
But you're still gonna physically walk them around, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, if
So,
it's
so the email is secondary notification. for
Well, it's
anybody who wants to
primary,
know
it's
stuff.
first thing that goes out, it's the quickest thing.
Yeah.
People are complaining about 6 hours after water shuts down, their water shuts down, and here we have 24, and they're still complaining, it's 6. So it's gotta be something quick, and we get it out to the list we have and tell the people if they wanna get on the list, if you wanna be notified.
Would there, are there any funds for a mailer to say, sign up for water?
It's on,
On the
bills.
bills.
Okay,
on the
so
bills.
it's a matter of them looking and reading and, which
Yeah.
we
It's on the
don't
bills.
always look at.
Michael's got a comment, it looks like.
Okay,
Yeah, in anticipation of this, I added 2 lines to this new invoice or new bill that we're going to be doing this month. And it says, give us your email address, give us your phone number. So I am trying to collect them and then put them in the database, but not doing anything more than that, but just at the moment trying to get a greater percentage of people. Because I haven't had any problem when I ask people to give them, they're more than willing, more than happy to do so. So,
Thank you, Michael.
yep.
All right,
And it's on the coupon part on the bottom.
So you're leading the gathering the information charge. We need someone to get it through implementation notification.
Right. I'm just collecting. I'm not doing anything with it other than putting it in the BSNA database. So it's in a single place.
We probably need to talk to Dave Fisher and see the best way to handle that.
Correct.
well, when we appoint somebody from the the improvement, we'll assign them that task.
Or to me, it makes sense to have someone from a administrative area from the township, either one of the townships. LASA maybe has to start thinking about paying someone to do this on a part-time basis or as needed basis. I don't
It
know.
worked so well with the last situation.
Yeah. Well,
Let's talk with Dave and see
okay.
if he's got some way of, making these notifications go smoothly, because somebody's gonna have access to the database that
Right.
specifically tells us which area of Loch Alpine will be affected by this water main shutdown. And then we have to notify those people electronically and ultimately by door hangers or whatever.
Yeah, it's basically, we'll break down the data by street.
Well, and I don't know if this is a silly idea, but I mean, maybe there's more benefit than harm to communicating to too many people to say, hey, there's a water main break. We're isolating everybody who's affected. We're on top of it. Stay tuned, something.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Just,
And what were the nature of the complaints about the 6 hours?
what took so long?
And was it because they didn't see somebody there dealing with it, or because the work just takes
Because
as
they
long as it
didn't
did?
hear one word for 6 hours and their water was out.
And how long did it take F and B to get on site, Brandon?
So we were actually on site. Andy was at the water plant fixing another, or wastewater plant fixing another issue. So we were trying to isolate, but with the structure fire, we didn't want to shut everything down right away until the fire was under control. So we let some water run out for a while, but we were there immediately.
Yeah, the fire chief called Webster
Yeah,
and we gave him the emergency number.
and,
Yep.
and they called me too. I texted with Brandon. I mean, I also know, you know, the nature of the fire. Thank goodness nobody was hurt. We're all grateful for that, but it involved an electric vehicle. And so it was a long one.
Yeah. And we had Andy was on site actually fixing we had some electrical blip that was going on. So Andy was actually on site dealing with that at the time when I called him, and I got multiple calls from the emergency line, and Andy was already on site working on getting things isolated. Well, not isolated, more directional flow so that the fire department could still do their job.
So Brandon, would it be possible for the emergency line, like when we're in a state of emergency, to have a pre-recorded even, you know, voicemail that says, hi, you know, you've reached the emergency line. If you're calling about the water main break that happened at 4 p.m. today, know that our crews are on it, or something like that. Because what happens now to those calls? When you're already on site, you're hustling, but it's still coming in. What response do people get?
So what I did, because our emergency line is not a recording, it's actual people.
Right.
So they then forward the calls to me, or they call me directly telling me the situation. I had them make a note in their system to where, listen, we have a water main break. We are working diligently, and they were supposed to have been telling customers that who were calling about that situation.
And Brandon,
Didn't work
I
that way.
tested that and I called the emergency line and talked to somebody. And I do think we could get a little bit clear on the messaging.
Yes, because it did not work that well because
Did not work that well.
because I guess there's multiple people in the call center, and some of them weren't reading the notes that were put in. I will look into that and see what we could do for future.
Okay. Enough on that one. Lead and copper, we got corrosion control study, inventory, is due the end of this year. You're on that though, right, Brandon?
The inventory, I think, is more Ted than it is me. But the corrosion control study is required for the lead and copper violation by a proposal. Is all it says is a proposal has to be for optional corrosion control by March 31st.
Well, we got some action. All right, so can you get us a quote or two?
Yeah, I can. I did send you an email. I didn't know if his company was able to do that or not. But there was Cornwell is one that was recommended to me by another operator in our company that they've used before to do corrosion control studies.
All right, well, we got it. So we have to report that before the next meeting. So we'll have to get a proposal for that. Can you get us contact information or make a contact on that? Have one of your people?
Yep, we can do that. Is that all right with you, Ted?
Yeah, I'll look at what I can do too and get back and get with you as well.
Yeah, or let me know, Ted. Yeah, what you
I will
can
do
do. Anything else on the lead and copper issues after our public meeting? You've had, let's see, you are in the process of resubmitting the sampling plan for 2024 then, right?
That sampling plan's been submitted with additional addresses. I've got about 103 on there currently. But if we don't get our 20 samples in the next 6 months from those 20, we will go out to other addresses that meet the criteria and try to get from those, and we can add those to the sampling plan. So that sampling plan can be updated and changed as needed.
Okay,
That's the sampling plan's all been submitted to Eagle as well.
anyone have any questions about lead and copper violations and issues from the board?
Dave, has there been more discussion about maybe sampling beyond the number required, or any more thought given to that? I know it was a suggestion from the community. I don't know if it's worth following up on it.
Well, yeah, Brendan, why don't you just report on that? I think we're open to more. We're gonna do some extras.
Yeah. So we're required 20 the first 6 months and another 20 the second 6 months of the year. But it doesn't necessarily mean we have to stick to 20. If we get 50, we get 50. That's not been my experience in the past of getting lead and copper samples. You get people that, oh yeah, I'll take it, and then they don't bypass their water softener, so it doesn't count as a compliance sample. There's a lot of challenges with that. So I've actually been making some phone calls to a couple residents that I know don't have water softeners. I know of one. And I reached out to him today to see if he would be willing to pull a sample for me. So we can certainly get more than 20. That's not a problem.
We'll make, I think Brandon's been aware that that hurt us last time because we only had 9. We need to have more than enough. If they don't do it properly, we're going to not submit it, the results.
Some locations offer credit on the bill. Do you guys do that?
Credit on the bill?
Yeah, like if you contribute your sample, we credit your bill $20.
So we're saving them the cost of the sample. They're double saving. Yeah, that's interesting.
I have heard that
As an
before.
incentive for participation.
Yeah, I mean, some places are doing that, right? So I have a couple clients that are doing an incentive for participation. They give them a $20 credit on the bill.
That's a thought. Any comments on that?
I like that idea.
Yeah, I do too. I don't know if we can kind of target it with the homes we're looking for. Assume so.
Well, we're limited to the homes that,
Yeah.
It's not it wouldn't be available to everyone.
How many in the target area?
Houses before 1988 are the target.
Do you know how many?
Target sample.
Over 100.
103.
Well, that's
I'll
what
have to look
on the
database.
sample site plan. But there's definitely more than that. The one thing that F&V has kind of adopted when it comes to, well, we are adopting an SOP when it comes to the collection of the samples. If the sample is not collected per the standard where the water softener was bypassed or there's 6-hour stagnation and things like that, we are not going to be collecting the sample off the porch. So usually I have them leave it on the porch. We collect it the next day, or, they let us know. We're not going to even collect that sample because we've been burned in other places where we collect the sample, the customer wants result, but we couldn't run the sample because it didn't meet the criteria. That's where I sent some in that didn't meet the criteria, gave the customer the result, and we still get burned. So that's where F&V's kind of come to the consensus to not collect the sample if it doesn't meet the sampling criteria.
Brandon, how do you know if it doesn't meet?
Well, just criteria for select collection.
There's a sheet
Yeah,
that
but
you have to
the
fill out.
water softener, how do you know it's been off for 2 weeks?
That's part of the questionnaire that is given with the sample bottle.
It's
So
up to the customer.
yep. So before we even take it, we're we're gonna look that paperwork over and make sure that it meets our the required sampling criteria.
My only suggestion would be, take him down in his basement, show him his water softener and what valve he has to turn to bypass it.
Yeah, do we think that information's reliable enough, Brandon? I mean, self-reported, I think you're giving homeowners a lot of credit. I say as a homeowner who can barely use my water softener.
Well, it's what the state is requiring. So if they write it on there that they bypass their softener, I'm going by what they're saying on their COC.
Right. And so, and then we have the documentation to show that it was, water softener was quote bypassed.
And previously, you know, with the state about water softeners, if the homeowner was scared that their, you know, water softener was gonna break, bypassing
Or the
it, you know.
bypass valve.
Yeah, right. You know, you could just certify that as, you know, that's not bypassed, but that doesn't seem to be the policy at Eagle
No.
anymore.
No, they,
No, that's definitely not the policy anymore. I wish they'd let us take softeners.
all right. Any more discussion on lead and copper? I'll get that corrosion control study, Ted, will give us your information when you can. All right, any additional PO requests, Brandon? Other than this, well, we'll wait on this, we'll wait for our corrosion control study till next meeting. We can submit the proposal. Then we got meter replacement and meter supplier lawsuit, left is what I've got. Where are we at on meter replacement? We got delayed by our public meeting for lead and copper. So we now, we were supposed to have the meter, representative, talk to the operations committee at that meeting. We're still down to 2. We got
I
that.
one water meter yet that has not been replaced that I have on my list.
You're down to, oh, that you have to replace. Okay.
That actually has to be replaced. There's
Okay.
one.
One left to do.
The MXUs that aren't working, that might be more of a question for Michael. I know there was like 80 the last set of meter reads that did not read for the radio reads.
Yes, something like that. It's a significant number. It's about 20%.
And I know when I talk to Badger, SLC, they can provide a new endpoint, they call it, that will work with the census meter. So it would be just a matter of going through and replacing the endpoints that are not working, and they would be cellular. So, and I know that's something that we needed to, the operations committee meeting.
Aetna, what they've been doing with Dexter was once the warranty lapsed, they started handing us 1 or 2 MXUs at a time and charging us for it because they said it was no longer in the warranty period. And made Dexter really mad.
Oh,
Yeah.
the supplier of the our
Right.
meters.
I can't even get one from them.
So I think we gotta target something here. What's our plan? Can we get the operations committee at the next meeting to have, we got 2 options we looking at?
I could get Metron Ferner,
And
they said
Badger?
and Badger, they could do the same. Believe Metron Ferner said they could do the same thing.
Yeah, it's a cellular setup too. You know, they just attached on.
What is it called? Metron?
Metron Ferner,
Fariner? How do you spell Fariner?
FARNIAR.
Thank you.
I think the ops committee, we gotta get them working and, get those 2 guys, suppliers to come to the next ops meeting, is it? Does that sound reasonable planning? Then the ops committee can make a recommendation to this board. So we'll shoot for that, March ops committee meeting to get those two guys.
I would just like to add from a billing perspective, we're not getting a lot of people that are sending in their meter reads so we still have a lot of estimated bills out there. And the longer that goes on, the further we are away from accurate billing for those customers.
Well, my only thoughts on that is before you, Michael, we had some estimated bills out there when we replaced the meters that were way underestimated. And because of COVID, people were staying home and water bills were going up. And we had a lot of upset people when they had almost a year's bill to pay in a 3-month period.
I understand.
Yeah,
I see that same thing.
Yeah, so you're estimating on a conservative basis or
Hi.
high?
High-ish. Yeah, it's an average. It's an average of their past year's billing. So if they've been averaged for a year, if they've been estimated for a year, we're still going back 2 years. The one thing is they're all residential, so that's a good thing. But I can tell you just from personal experience in another community, we had one that wasn't read for a long time. It wasn't a vacant home, but that the house, the pipes froze, and there was 3 million gallons of water that went through that meter that we didn't know about. So these are it's just they got a bill for $17,000. But so I'm always in favor of an accurate read every time.
Yeah, all right. Well, we'll try to get both suppliers at the next meeting, next ops meeting. And present, then be ready to present by the board meeting.
What's the
In the
date
law.
of the ops meeting, Dave? March.
I think it's somewhere around the 17th, but hold on.
19th?
Is that a Monday? Is that a Friday?
I'm sorry, I had the wrong month up. 15th?
I don't have. Yeah, probably the 15th, yeah. I think it's the 15th. Check the LAI website, it'll be on there under meeting schedule.
Okay, I will, because that shouldn't be an issue to get them at the meeting.
Yeah, 3:15. Check. Okay, meter lawsuit at this point, our attorney's not here, but no action or anything now. The attorney basically said, you know, the only way to make this thing feasible is to jump on a lawsuit with others that are already engaged. And haven't found any to date. You don't know of any other in your areas that you're supporting. Have you, Colleen, heard of any other meter problems and problems with Aetna group?
Not Aetna specifically. I don't know if Michael has, but there's meter problems everywhere.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. Brandon probably has more familiarity.
Tomorrow night, the Scioto Township Board is going to hear a presentation from Metron.
Oh,
Metron.
okay. So
If
you
anybody
are,
wants to tune in, that is the emerging recommendation from our new utility director.
just to go Metro.
Jessica, is that a Zoom?
Yes, and the Zoom link, which I'm sure works, is on the website.
Is on the Scioto Township website?
Yeah.
Website?
Yep.
I'd like
Yep.
to listen in.
Yeah, it's the 7:00 board meeting.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
The agenda.
All right, anything else, Brendan, that you have?
Let me check your agenda, but I do not believe so. Not at this time.
All right, I know you have to leave early, so you can cut out whenever you'd like. I think at this point, I don't see, stay aboard if you can for a little bit, just in case Ted has some issues, but
Yep, Andy should be on this meeting as well.
Yep, I don't see him unless he's iPhone 2.
He might be iPhone 2.
And Brandon, thanks for all your hard emergency work the last several weeks. Really appreciate it.
No problem. That's what we're here for. You know, I couldn't do it without guys like Andy and some of the other staff we brought in to help. So
and Steve DeWolf is still answering the call for the digging up and all the contractor work. And he responds on within an hour or two, he's on site, mobilizes on site.
yes, I just wish he would give me a quote for curb box replacement so that I can do some stuff with that. So give me a set price.
He prefers the emergency work. All right, Ted, what do you got?
So I have no update on the easement situation. I think that's still with Mr. Fink. I will follow up with him and see where he's at. The reliability study, we ran the numbers and everything looks good. Although one of the hydrants we used to calibrate the model was the one that Brandon found mostly closed. So I need to investigate that a little bit, but we'll be ready to present the model results at the ops meeting in a couple months.
Okay, well, that's interesting.
That's about all I have today.
Okay. Any questions, comments for Ted? I'll just, in your packet, there's EGLE notice of biosolids containing PFAS updates. I don't think we have much of an issue on that because they've expanded the analysis or lab testing that to be done on the solids that are then land applied from our plant.
So I can give you a little bit on that, Dave, if you want.
Okay.
The only thing that's changing for LASA is you were required, was it 2 years ago, that you only had to do it, or well, 3 years ago, you only had to sample for PFAS in your biosolids once every 5 years. I have emails to that effect, but this letter changes that, and it only changes that now you have to sample for PFAS every year and submit the results to Eagle 2 weeks prior to land application. That's essentially the only change for LASA.
And the list of PFAS is to analyze is expanded, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think it went from 26 to 28. There's a couple different analytes they're changing.
Not much. All right, and then the other thing, updated joint cybersecurity advisory. I understand there's I keep getting these emails about all the concern the US has for
Do we have any of those PLCs that was on that warning?
the PLCs, the operating PLCs are basically being hacked into by.
Right, yeah, we don't have any of those PLCs in Dexter. I just don't know
What are
if the
PLCs?
Loch Alpine
Sorry.
program,
Control.
right.
I'll have to look into that. I don't think so, because I think we've updated most of those. With the SCADA.
And you have manual or backup capability on all the equipment anyway, in case something. You could operate it. You could operate if they shut pumps down. You can't get drinking water on. It's bad.
Yes, there is manual operation.
All right, just want to put it on as a record. Since they keep sending out these notices. Operating committee minutes issues. The open house was basically our last operating committee, and that was held December 8th. So there are some minutes in your package, basic minutes about what the EGLE presented and basic information for your review if you weren't there. All right, and at this point, financial report, I guess, is part of the package. So, Colleen, is that you?
Okay, yes, so I have been given my instructions about what to talk about. Let's see, where are we? Oh, I'm in the audit report. So pretty much everything's proceeding according to plan. We do still want to talk about the fact that even though you closed your year with a positive 51,000 in fund balance, your debt service is 250,000. So that's, we've got to just still kind of look at this from a cash flow perspective too, right? The big thing we're trying to accomplish is closing these extra banks. And I think Barb and Jessica, you've both gotten emails. Are one of the other of you going to be able to go close those banks? Or John?
It's gonna have to be us three. Yeah, let's pick, can we?
I don't know that you have to go together.
One of them needs two of us. One of us can go, one of them will need two of us from what I think I read.
Okay, so Brian did call and got the, what
He's
he
got
needed.
he's got
Okay,
the information we need.
okay, so
We all pick a date before we leave tonight, yeah, after the meeting closing, okay.
that would be
If it's
great.
before 7:15.
Yeah.
Very important, eh?
That would be great. And then he did also, looks like what I did is actually closed his report. Oh, no, here it is. So you have the December financials. And it doesn't include the December revenue, right? Because that hasn't billed out yet. So it's usage through December, but it actually hits your books in January. So you're really only looking at 1 quarter right now. Oh, see, then cash management, there's that little item that you had asked about, that it was unreconciled 4,900, that's now down to 3,055, right? So they found one of those missing customers. So the other thing that Ryan got done is if you pass this resolution, so he found your investment policy. So you have an active investment policy. You don't need a new investment policy. So he enclosed that just so you can take a look at it. You adopted one in January 99. What he's asking you to do is pass the resolution to approve your financial institutions. And the financial institutions include Section 1, Flagstar Bank, because that's your primary depository, Chelsea and Bank of Ann Arbor. So even though we're going to close those at the moment, you still have them and something may happen that you want to put some money in there. And we're also asking that you approve an investment pool of Michigan class. So I can ask the Michigan class gentleman to come to the next meeting if you'd like to. Michigan class is, it is set up to service small, predominantly local units. And they follow Public Act 20 and they can invest your money and they have professional investment advisors on hand, right? So we don't have an enormous amount of money. So we aren't gonna, be able to pay for an investment advisor. So we hand it to them. It's a great first step, and it will take care of some of your idle cash and try and get us a little bit more money for your customers. And it's, it's still a secure investment. So if you pass this resolution, which Jessica, you'll probably, or Barb, are you the secretary?
Yes.
Okay, so you'll see that he, yeah, so you'll have to fix that motion to approve was offered by, did Ryan send this to you in Word? I'll ask him to send it to you in Word. Okay, because it's got, he copied this from another city.
Administrative changes.
Yeah, a couple of administrative changes on there. So we're asking that you pass this and then we'll get moving on the Michigan class. You'll close this money by the time we hit February. Hopefully we'll be able to say that you're earning a little bit of interest, a little more interest. And I think that was all that I was supposed to talk to you about. And you've addressed a couple of the other things. And so before we leave tonight, if the board approves this resolution, I actually have the packet for Michigan class that needs some officer signatures. And I can hand this out so everybody can look at it, but it's just signers on the account.
Any questions about the resolution? Still got a majority here. 3, 4, 5.
I move that we adopt resolution 2024-1.
Support?
Or Flintoff? Ayes and nays, good enough? On this,
Roll call.
could be. Roll call? All right. Roll call, Kalaja,
I,
Flintoff,
Aye.
Kingsley,
Aye.
Carrie,
I,
Navarre, aye, and Westman's absent.
it's 5 of us.
So that's 5. Motion passed unanimously.
Excellent, thank you very much. Are there any questions on the financials at all? We're still working to, we're working on streamlining some of your processes and we're getting there. Things are going pretty well.
Well, we appreciate your effort. We know we got a ways to go. We got it, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna get you there. I've got 2 pretty good guys working on your account, so.
Yeah, I hear that he's the mayor of Fraser.
He is now the mayor.
Okay, with that, any old business?
Do we need to approve the list of checks for the quarter?
I don't know if they're included in here.
Yes, they are.
Are they?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it would be from 10/1/2023 to 12/31/2023.
Is that a motion?
Sure, that's a motion.
A second?
sure, second.
Okay, we'll go through it then. Kalaja,
I,
Flintoff,
Aye.
Kingsley,
Aye.
Carrie,
I,
Navarre, aye. Motion unanimously approved. Anything else? Old business, I keep on the agenda, topics, IT upgrades, we need improvements plan. We want
Yep,
a possibility incorporating the Scioto Township, I think.
an update on that, so I
I
got
think we
it.
need to keep just moving in that direction, and
Right.
seeing, it may not be a match, but
So I've got a kind of draft scope of work from our IT director that I've talked about with Michael Lesich to make sure it kind of covers what we would need to do. Additionally, I've talked with our finance manager who runs payroll about the possibility of moving payroll over as well. It would actually be a cost savings for LASA. Because LASA is currently paying for the payroll module of BSNA maintenance every year. And there are, 28 checks a year that are run by payroll. So it must be done by payroll. Certainly there's openness in Scioto Township. We've had our own kind of short staffing in our payroll department in the last 4 weeks. So that's given it a little bit of a hiccup. But that's temporary and should be resolved soon. So I've asked Jim Fink to kind of draft up kind of what the language of a simple interagency agreement would look like, and with the scope of work. So I hope to be able to bring forth a reasonable proposal to the board at our March meeting or April meeting.
okay. And if you need any, I would say, Dave, last name,
Which day?
IT guy.
Fisher.
Fisher, Dave Fisher, ops committee.
I chatted with Dave about this as well.
Okay,
Yep,
I would just, if you keep him in the loop, I think.
I will do
He
so.
is a-
I will keep him in the loop and I would just also put out a request to my fellow LASA board members, particularly Scioto Township trustee and maybe Supervisor Kingsley and Clerk Kalaja to, when the time comes, just kind of express your support for this idea to make sure we have the full support of the Scioto Township board.
Yeah, if there's any questions about why you wouldn't support it, now's the time.
If I could just jump in, actually, the W-2s will be issued this week for the board members, but it takes as much work to process payroll for one employee as it does for 100, right? Because, okay, if everybody enters their time, that's easy, but you still have to process, you gotta file with the state, you gotta pay gotta do all the compliance payments. I mean, we're having to print out W-2s. It's too much work for an entity this size. If we can have one of your member communities, you know, municipalities process this for you, you're way ahead of the game.
Okay, that's good input. And, you know, along that line, I think the two townships are basically responsible for this group, but and Scio's probably got more of the similar situation as Loch Alpine does. I would just think I envision as I move to get off this board is that it really should someone should consider moving maybe the management of the group to the utilities director in Scioto Township. It would make a lot of sense to me to go in that direction. It's a little more work. I could handle it 5 years ago. I'm not sure I can handle it now efficiently. I'm slower.
I
No.
think,
Well, then how will that work though? Then will LASA reimburse Scio?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
That's why the contract.
IT
is-
payroll, yeah,
that's
that there
why.
would be a, you know, reasonable, fee for the, you know, few payroll would be virtually nothing. IT, you know, based on my conversation with the IT director, there's some setup involved to kind of keep the LASA files protected within the server, kind of very separate from Scio and all the security, but I've got a lot of confidence in him, he's excellent. But again, ongoing, it would just be sort of a fee for the service that Scio would provide LASA.
And then as far as actually reimbursing the payroll, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the mechanics of it are, we pay a fee for the service, and the mechanics of it are payroll just posts this payroll, right? So it's super simple. We set everybody up as a recurring payroll entry. Payroll just posts this to an account called due from LASA. And then once a quarter, twice a year, I mean, you know, depending on, they just print that general ledger out. In other words, all the transactions, email it to us and we say, okay, cut a check to reimburse Scio. So there'll be a fee for the service.
Money initially is gonna be coming from Scio.
Yeah, we would have to front.
Yeah, there's a very easy right when you journalize payroll.
Yeah, right when you journalize
There'll
payroll.
be a due from
Yeah.
report
Yeah.
that can
Mhm.
easily track it.
Easily track it.
Yeah.
So you won't be set up as an expense to Scio. Your paycheck will be set up as going to due from LASA.
That's why I think one entity doing it that rather than separate ones taking care of their people is gonna be better.
Agreed. And to the bigger question about, Dave, you know, a possibility in the future of, you know, Scioto Township Utility, you know, managing, more of the LASA operations. I think that, you know, when the time comes that the LASA board wants to make that request, we should just talk about it at a meeting and make the request to kind of sit down and have a formal meeting with our utility director and manager and just introduce the idea. We've got a great new utility director, Brandon McNeil.
Oh, really?
came from-
Steve's gone?
Yep, Steve left and Brandon came from the city of Flint. He's seen a lot as utility director with the city of Flint. He's very ambitious. He's still kind of getting his feet under him, but also there's support on this township board to properly staff up the utility department. So we use OHM as our engineer who's been excellent for us. And so they're really kind of, I have confidence that, you know, in the future, if it was the will of both bodies, that we could have the capacity to.
Yeah, no, and that's only my opinion.
No, I've thought of it as well, Dave, I mean, just kind of, we're a small system.
Whatever the board wants to consider, that's up to them.
Exactly.
You know, and go the direction you want, but
Exactly.
it just seems like, it's getting more and more, it's taking, I'm the one holding up the works, is because I'm out of town, or I'm not looking at my emails every day if I'm out of town, I'm sorry.
Well,
I'm retired.
Dave, you've done
So,
an
anyway.
extraordinary job.
All right, but I just wanna just plant that seed and for the board to consider down the road. All right, any other issues?
I just had one other item. I apologize. We talked about getting an ACH policy adopted, and we thought you were gonna ask your attorney to do that. I mean, we could.
He was forwarding you a document, or he was gonna bring one to this meeting tonight, I thought. I think it's in the minutes.
I will check in with him. I meet with him tomorrow, so let me see where that's at, because I know.
So what we'd like, while we're waiting for the policy, is just, we'd like to have a board motion in the minutes that says we intend to adopt an ACH policy, and it will be presented, because we can start moving in the direction of doing some of these streamlined ACH payments, with at least that in the minutes, right? Saying that we are going to adopt a policy. So if we could just have a motion in the minutes that says this board intends to adopt an ACH policy.
You're talking about our bills, like the DTE and phone and everything.
That's right. I'm talking about your bills, your DTE, your phone, the fact that we're actually taking electronic
Yeah,
payments.
we're supposed to have a
People.
resolution at this meeting.
Is that the ACH from our customers files?
both.
It's both ways.
Both ways,
Okay.
to and from.
Okay.
You're supposed to have a policy on the books before you can process, so.
All right, so a motion made to develop a policy, draft up a policy for ACH handling.
I move that we announce that we are on a pathway to establish an ACH policy, a comprehensive ACH policy to provide for ACH payments and accounts receivable by the next quarter.
Could I ask you to say accounts receivable and accounts payable?
What's that?
Could I ask you to say accounts receivable and accounts payable?
Accounts receivable and payable.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
For Jessica voting, just to, for the record then, Malaysia. Aye.
Aye, yes, me. I'm ready.
Flintoff.
Aye.
Yeah. Kingsley.
Aye.
Carrie.
Aye.
Navarre, aye. All right, unanimously passed for that, creating that ACH policy. Great.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Anything else? Can I have a motion to close the meeting at almost 6:32?
So moved.
Motion moved to close 6:32. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Opposed? Thank
Who
you.
seconded that?
Dave, you had noted one more.
Who
public
seconded
comment
that?
period.
All
I'll
right.
second it. I'll second.
And any other public information on my bad? Any other public?
Any comment? Any other members of the public interested in speaking, please raise your Zoom hand. This is the final public comment period. Okay, I see none, Dave.
All right. Thank you, Jess. And meeting adjourned. Thanks, Andrea, for showing up.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.
And Colleen.
Yeah, it's so nice to meet everyone.